Excuse my mess. So, holla back, holla back. It's your boy, it's me, Elliot. Hi. Oh dear. It's just going to be a mean streak of videos for the next little bit, I imagine, for personal reasons that are global in scope. Just trying so hard to amuse myself. Hi, I'm Elliot. And here's my 2 cents. All of them rubbing together. Giggity. I like to bring attention to super everyday things that go unnoticed, which is why I'm almost always talking about love. We don't, it's not even a matter of appreciating or being grateful for the gifts you have. But so much of the best of life goes unnoticed. And so gets like trampled under not even our feet. Our feet are not even on the ground, trampled under the weight of our fear of suffering, not even our suffering, but our fear of suffering. And all of the extraneous bullshit that we'd rather collectively bear instead of exposing the vulnerability of, I don't know. And that's not everybody, I'm definitely generalizing, but there's like a species of human, if I may, spiritually divide us, or soulfully divide us, is not all having the same fucking origin in the whole eternity, infinitude of existence and non-existence. But there's a whole slew of fucking people whom you may be one of, or like a hybrid of, because we all are hybrids of everything. It's just one. Like we can, creating distinctions is cool and evolutionary, but ultimately we're all literally just one. So I don't know, it's just useful to remember that like we can oppose each other and we can be enemies and we can be friends, but when nobody wins, can we just like recall that when nobody was winning, we can just as easily like turn the table, flip the coin, roll the dice, I don't know, analogy inserted here, to have everyone win. If nobody's winning, you can just be like, oh, well, this just sucks. Why don't we just change it so everybody wins and then start fighting again, but while everyone wins? Because then it's just conflict, and conflict's not the enemy. The fourth ray, the heart chakra, the green ray is love, is harmony through conflict. You know what exists in a world without conflict? Love. Love is the power of overcoming. Love is what happens when conflict turns into synergy. It just doesn't need to be abusive. And there's a whole, like I know why I say there's a population of the people that I don't belong to is because and I'm only speaking not like singularly as a unique individual, but singularly as a unique individual. Speaking of my unique experience, that is probably most certainly shared amongst many other unique individuals. But the conditioning and the schooling towards like the elevation that is the pride of being right over being true. Like yesterday, I spoke a little bit about the like obnoxiousness that is lying to someone to save them from feeling bad. Like that's going to ever produce that result in the end. And if it doesn't, if it saves them from feeling bad, what you're doing is just passing along that pain while it accrues interest, if not to their future self and to your future self, then almost worse, but we're all one, so it's all just fucking worse, to someone else. The next generation of livers. Because eventually the truth comes out, and when the truth comes out and it hurts, that sucks. But when the truth comes out and you find out it's been true for longer than you could have known, and so that you've been trying to, like, this is ultimately the danger and the, I don't know, it's like sometimes it's a tragedy and sometimes it's just fucking obnoxious and ignorant. But this, when you lie about a problem, when you lie about the truth, then especially save someone their feelings, which is just ridiculous because they're not lying to them. Like, they're living in truth. So whatever like feelings that aren't awesome are living at the periphery of their vision of life, their life living a vision is like, they're wondering, they're like, like, how can I be better? How can I further ascertain the truth so as to like create more beauty in my life? And then, someone they trust comes along and tells them a lie about a problem, then forevermore, until they find out the truth, they're trying to solve a problem based on the wrong information, which means that they're trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist, to like alleviate the suffering in their life that does exist. And the problem that they're trying to solve actually doesn't exist anywhere. They're creating a problem to try and solve it because that's the information that they have, which almost isn't their fault. I say almost just not to speak absolutely. I don't believe it's really their fault, if we're playing the fault and blame game. But the fault of someone who supposedly loves them. And really, this is the conditioning. It's like, do that, because don't look at the fact that you don't want to deal with the fact, you don't want to deal with their feelings, which is ultimately just, you don't want to deal with yours. Not you, the proverbial you, how we roll. Speaking of like the conversational tone. Hi, my name is Elliot. And I think a lot. Conversely, I also don't think a lot, which I think is important for us in this like growing togetherness and community of evolutionaries, really, because we're more than just empaths. We're more than just people. We're more than just revolutionaries. Sorry, I got distracted. That's annoying. Anyways. When people think people People think that they know what's good for others all the time. What that like stems from is people think that they know what other people are thinking all the time. And what that stems from, the root of that is the mistake, the highly conditioned mentality in our culture that has people like erroneous. I just love saying that word. You say it with me, or say it's so much fun. Erroneously. It's erroneous. It's erroneous. Just erroneous thinking. The erroneous belief that we think the same, like on a crazy fundamental level. Like there's this condition. I just thought of someone cute. I didn't lose my train of thought. I'm just enjoying it. There's this condition called like aphantasia, I think, or something like that, or something like that. It's when people don't form images in their mind. I would have never thought that I suffered from this, but my whole life I've suffered from that. When I say that I can see something in my mind, it is an entirely different experience than when somebody else literally sees an image in their mind that is similar to, I think, that is similar to like what they might see when they just open their eyes. I don't know. I'm imagining, because guess what? I don't know what the fuck is going on in your mind precisely as much as I know what the fuck is going on in my mind. And I've never made the mistake, really, of ignoring that to some degree. You know? It's hot in here. It's not hot. I don't feel like it's hot. I don't know. I feel like it's hot. But there's two people telling the truth about their own experience, but assuming that whatever temperature is outside is the objective experience, and that one of them is more right than the other. That they're talking about the same heat. And then we assert that these differences are based on skill or talent or experience instead of perception. It's like I was, doing my research as I do, and someone was like, they're talking about, and it was like a bit of like a produced program, so there was some money behind it, which means you can say this, but you can't say that. Otherwise, your peers will be watching this and you will be judged. It was like the science of the soul or some bullshit. And that's mean of me, but I'm, like I said, just having a mean streak. She was like qualifying religious paradox and experience, and like aiming to create a relationship between science and spirituality. And she was speaking about, like there was one time when I remember I was talking about the aphantasia, whatever. We'll get back to that if it makes sense. She was talking about, there was this one time that like I saw the spirit of my grandpa. And then she said, now, I'm not going to say that what I experienced was true, but ... And that made me pause. Like, how backwards is that? How backwards is that she had an experience, an undeniable experience of self, whatever she asserts as like seeing her grandpa who has passed away. And then she's like, I'm not going to say that's true, but And it doesn't matter what she went on to say after that, because it's just a qualifier, because she's already lying, but not intentionally, but out of fear. I live in a very distracting environment. And not distracting like the sounds of kids playing and people laughing in love. But energies that seek to bleed you of goodness. And wish you away as being an inconvenient existence. Always a window or portal to some truth that is more easily ignored. Rather than effortlessly experience the painful truth of one's own choices. People think that they're being empathetic all the time. I know what that person means. Like, I know what goodness is. I know what it's like to be that person. That's not empathy. There's a majority of people that, you know what, this is a very shared reality in our community, but everyone that's ever asked someone else, like a tarot reader, or at all, like really, ask them about how someone else feels is not an empath, and is, or rather, because really, I'll be as bold as to say that because I don't give a fuck, but is not in their empathy. Not because an empath would just know, even though they would, holla holla. But it's not like just a superpower process. It's because they would listen and they've been paying attention. And chances are they know better than the person themselves. And that's only just caused more grief and suffering. Holla holla. Empathy is a superpower that is really the ability to ask someone questions that depend on what they're speaking, so as to reach some mutual understanding of meaning. Like, that's empathy. And when others think that they know better, like our whole, like the DSM, the psychological, like DSM, the book for diagnosing syndromes of a mental disorder, is just like an encyclopedia of ignorance. It doesn't need to be. Like I said, classifications and modes of distinction are useful. But so is like a knife. And like all swords and words, they can be used to carve out new realities. They can accidentally hurt the ones you care about. They can purposely hurt anyone, and they most certainly, almost always, eventually end up hurting the one that uses them. Now, that doesn't need to be a bad thing. You learn from that, right? Like, if you've never been cut from while using a knife, then you don't know how to use a knife. Like, we get cut on the things that we want to get good on. That's okay. It's not the worst thing in the world. In fact, it's conflict. It's a part of providence. It's a part of beauty. Perfection is the beauty mark. Perfection is the scar. It's the thing that that's why I don't know if you've got this experience yourself, but like the people that we feel like the most attracted to, like a very, in a very physical way, like undoubtedly have features that are just like, yeah, you're just like really beautiful. I'm gonna speak like I would like about a man, right? Because there's no like handsome, beautiful. They're all just great words to describe men or women. And then there's like some aspect that can't be placed. You couldn't specifically say, well, it's, you know, their ears or their knees or, you know, something. I'm trying to pick things that are like, because you can't say it. There's no words, but it's just, there's like if you could sit down and be the most perfect like fine artist and draw from your imagination the most beautiful member of your preferred sex, they would never be as attractive as the one you love the most. And I'm just talking about physically, right? And not because they have scars and beauty marks, but because you can't make that shit up. And how does that make sense with the topic tonight? That's the mistake of ignorance, confused as empathy and intelligence. The mistake of thinking that you know better than someone about anything that pertains to like themselves or really anything. Like, I would presume to know a lot more about a lot of shit, but it'll never, ever begin to make a difference in anyone's lives without us mutually crossing the lands of understanding together. Because a part of knowing anything is remembering that you always know, you're always missing something, and not at some kind of nebulous edge of understanding, like your knowledge of something is a linear experience, and so you're just adding to the end of the book of the latest volume of your awareness. But instead, you're missing something close to the middle, and you can hear the exact same words that you've heard a million times before, but because you're hearing them now, it's because the universe is producing the vowels and the sounds to gift you more and more something that you want but haven't grasped yet. Yeah, but what if, you know, this person is experiencing hallucinations of and delusions of, it's like, fuck you. Fuck you hard in the nose. Then they're experiencing, I don't know, words that are exposing your vulnerability, your weakness, with non-understanding, and quite possibly just being fucking wrong about something. Because people that There's like two types of people that are basically like ignorant of their circumstances. One is like despite themselves, and the other is like in spite of themselves. One that like kind of like is on the edge of why and how they could know better, and they just fucking avoid it. And then the other is like they try everything that they can, but their environment is fueled by data that promises pain, and they experience that pain from all of their trying to do the right thing. But the right thing is about a lie. And so they're totally solving a problem that doesn't really exist, which means that they're creating the problem. And if you create a problem that doesn't exist to solve a problem that doesn't exist, that's really two problems, because the solution will never absolve that problem because none of them are real. And all conflict is resolved by like iterations of uncovering the truth and refinement of what really is. There's no clever workarounds, no trickery. Cleverness is for games and self-appreciation. Like you're clever with yourself, but you're never really clever being clever about a problem, because that's where all the truth is. There are no external problems. That's a hard pill to swallow. Because you look around, I look around, I'm like, fuck all of this. It's so hard. To say that I deserve better is like not even like a, yeah, and I have an arm and legs and toes. But I don't know all the mechanics of why things are the way things are. I only know that I've tried to be a good person my whole life, and I've never faltered. Ever. And I've tried to create good things, and I've tried to do good things, and it turns out that that's not the way good things happen. Life comes to you, and then you make the good choice about it or the bad choice about it. So really, you only have to make one choice and then stay constant. And that is a refinement. And in a world of beauty, which is to say chaotic order, like static dynamism, the world flows and turns into one that reflects you. Which is why part of the fear and the strategy of fear, because the world is like, I haven't believed it so far. I've always kind of like privately thought, truly, like I almost like subconsciously, unconsciously thought that the wildest and craziest things will always still fly under the radar, and like there will be the most of the population of the world would basically just kind of go on like nothing's happened. Go on like nothing's happened, like, you know, World War II or the French Revolution, where everything's changed, and everybody thinks that they know what's going on, but fuck, they have no idea. Like World War II and the French Revolution. The good guys won. Oh yeah. That's another thing that I was fucking like this exposed to recently. It's ignorance and empathy and intelligence. There's a difference. It's like, like I think they were talking about. No, they were talking about. It's actually a great program, but by Monadic Media, it's a channel on YouTube. They're great. You just take everything with a grain of salt. You don't listen to the other. You listen to the other in you. You can't just listen to yourself, because that's erroneous. But if you listen to other people, you listen to the world inside, and they're inside you, then it's a togetherness while allowing for the distinction of creation and creativity. But they were like, the world wars, like, can esoterically be a representation not of two wars, but like a reincarnation, like a time spiral loop, a re-loop of like I want to say an Atlantean, like cataclysmic war or whatnot, as opposed to because the fuck do I know? Ha ha ha, more ha ha ha. But this time the good guys won. And then, like, in the same breath, it's like, unfortunately, the door was left ajar, and there was still space for the dark to weasel in and slowly turn the world into the shit that it is now. It's like, that's how afraid we are of admitting that, not just that we could be wrong, because it's like, oh, but I've lived all this time believing a lie, and I knew it was a lie. It's like, if I admit that it was a lie now, then that means admitting that I wasted my life. And the error in that is not that you might not live forever, that you're gonna die soon, because both are true. Whatever, it doesn't fucking matter. The real reason is, like, you can live fucking 50 years, you can live 70 years, and they can all suck, except for one day near the end of it. And that one day can make your whole life not just worth it, but great. But it'll never be based on a lie, because you're great and lies not. And that the good guys won World War II is one of, like, I don't know, I don't like to expose, like, socio-political truth too much on this channel, because that kind of truth gets people hurt. But the world wars, like, it's crazy to me how much we know, and yet how much we still just choose to believe bullshit, like lies, like straight up lies. Like, the good guys won World War II. The world went, like, definitively went to shit, like, post 1910, like pre 1910. Neither here nor there, but there was still a lot of freedom. The Industrial Revolution was kind of full swinging, but it could still, it's like, you still thought that was the worst it was going to get. It's like, yeah, but it's like, what was World War I based on? Some fucking Austrian duke getting assassinated, and then the whole world went to war? Why does anybody believe that? while at the same time we make movies and never mind that, like, even a mainstream media like produces like, this is when we lied about the truth, like, like the fucking Nixon guy, it's like, we do this, we do lie, you guys know we lie, right? Like, we don't tell you the truth, this is official, we lie all the time. And yet it's like, we know things, and we're going to tell you what we know things, and you're going to believe them. It's like, oh yeah, like, people believe that Hitler was real, and I'm not saying that Hitler didn't exist, but like, guys, isn't it obvious that there's some bullshit like propaganda when it comes to what the whole world believes about the war? Like, isn't it kind of fishy whenever somebody's body doesn't get found? And like, why is there so much media around around this guy at a time where like that wasn't, everyone didn't have a cell phone, yo. Like, to have movies of speeches and things like that, like, you use veins, like, yeah, well, we sure got a lot of copy of his vanity. And like, is it because we're smart and they're stupid? Because if we're listening to the same thing that they're listening and we're all just humans, how come they're listening to that and being like, yeah, we agree, and we're listening to that and we're like, we don't, and it has nothing to do with the fact that we were born? Slash, isn't this like the era of movie making? Didn't we start making fake movies around now? Hiring actors. Never mind like the compartmentalization that is like the armies. It's a need to know basis. You have one set of people believing that they're fighting for freedom, then you have another set of people believing that they're fighting for freedom, and then they don't speak the same language. So it's not like they can sit there and be like, hey, why are we fighting? Oh, and then we really did a good job of inventing like warfare that you don't even have to see people now. You just kill them from a distance, and not even like, you don't have to aim. You can now like mustard gas and bombs and shit. Like, insert. It's like, people think that they know the truth about fucking life and those wars, when like, we know that the only nuclear bombs that have ever been set off on our planet against like population centers were set off after the enemy lost. Like, the war was over when they dropped Nagasaki and Hiroshima. But we know why people do things. We don't question them, because why would you lie? Holocaust deniers, it's like, if Holocaust deniers even exist, doesn't that mean that there's some truth existing somewhere that's not being told? Did bad things happen? Yeah, but do bad things happen all the time? And people lie about who it's happening to, because nobody wants to accept responsibility for being the bad guy. Like, I brought this up in like a more recent thing, because you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna keep saying it. Like, who, like all the prisoner of war camps, during the World Wars, like, who builds prisoners of war camps while they're invading other countries, right? In their own country, takes the prisoners from their countries and then ships them all the way back to their country so that they can torture them and kill them in places that look like they were just kind of thrown up overnight, and where they're just mass burying like bodies in big holes in the ground. It's like, it's for the show of it. We don't want people to know. I don't know about that. Isn't part of the propaganda is that we don't give a fuck? We're Nazis. We do what we want. Slash, we're the Nazi police. Like, we're you know we're hunting you, blah blah blah. And like when we look at our everyday now, like all prisoner of war camps are set up in like the countries of occupation. But we think we know. And that gets confused with intelligence and empathy all the time. Like, oh, I'm not going to tell you the truth because it's going to hurt. I'm going to spare them the hurt. And when I listen to the sound of my voice, it sounds like I'm being empathetic. Empathy is not about knowing how another person feels. Empathy is not about thinking you know anything. There's no thought involved with empathy, although it has to take form in thought as it expresses itself. But thinking is not the root. I think I'm done ranting. I was thinking of coming on earlier and singing. I sang. I did end up just singing. And I say that because I haven't been able to really sing or dance recently. We'll see what happens. I hope that everything's okay with you. And that despite hard times, that you still got hope and faith and love and all the goodness. I know that someone loves you. Even though you both might not know it. In so many words. Okay, I will undoubtedly see you later. Ha ha ha. I love you. You're a really good person. Keep at it. Peace.